where we will be outlining and taking you through the decisions of the special NEC meeting that took place yesterday afternoon into the evening. The Secretary General will then go through the detail of those decisions. We will then be joined by one other member of the NEC, Phoebe, who's not here yet, but she'll be joining us shortly. And we will then have that conversation, but you all be most welcome. I want at this stage, without any waste of time, I want to cut to the chase and invite the Secretary General to address the meeting. That's the press conference.
Thank you very much, members of the media. This morning, thank you, Comrade Mahlengi and comrades who are with us here today, who have been appointed by the National Executive Committee to serve in various capacities at Ministerial House on a full-time basis. The National Executive Committee of the African National Congress held a special National Executive Committee to consider a range of organizational, national and international matters. This National Executive Committee lasted for 2 hours, and in the main it dealt with the outstanding matters from the last National Executive Committee, and it was a special meeting of the National Executive. President Ramaphosa briefed the National Executive on various engagements between the governments of Tanzania, Angola and Uganda. These are fraternal states led by fraternal parties and sister liberation movements with long-standing relations with the African National Congress. We will be undertaking visits to South Africa in the coming weeks and will engage with the African National Congress. The NEC was also briefed about South Africa's chairship of BRICS in 2023. The NEC affirmed the strategic role of BRICS and the need to elevate its role as a critical international body in international relations. The NEC reaffirmed the ANC's long-standing policy of solidarity with the Sahrawi Republic against the illegal Moroccan occupation of Western Sahara. The NEC further affirmed its solidarity with the people of Palestine against Israeli occupation and continues to call for the return to the negotiation table to give effect to a two-state solution that will see a sovereign state of Palestine peacefully coexisting alongside the state of Israel. In this regard, the National Executive Committee called on the African Union to reject any attempt to grant apartheid Israel observer status in the African Union. The NEC expressed support to President Ramaphosa's intervention to appoint a dedicated Minister of Electricity who will lead the charge in driving the necessary interventions aimed at eliminating load shedding and stabilizing electricity supply in the country. This intervention is in line with the resolution of the ANC's 55th National Conference, which calls on government to take immediate and decisive interventions to end load shedding, alongside the implementation of long-term solutions to the country's energy supply crisis. The NEC was taken into confidence by the President on this matter that this Minister of Electricity, his or her job will focus mainly on load shedding. Nothing more, nothing less. It's a transitional mechanism. The NEC also received a report that government is in the process of being reconfigured, and the resolutions of the ANC 55th conference will be implemented that relate to relocating ESCOM to energy. and all other entities like Transnet to transport. That work is being done in government as we receive the report and based on the conference resolution by the President, and will unfold as we continue to restructure and reconfigure government led by the President going forward. So the matter of the electricity minister is a matter of intervention in relation to what is facing the country. The President briefed the meeting that the minister will report directly to the President and Cabinet, follow up on issues that relate to this matter. And the two ministries, public enterprise as well as energy and minerals, will continue with their work and reinforcing the work of the Minister of Electricity going forward. But the Electricity Minister, the job is to deal with load shedding. The NEC considered reports on the contested regional conference of the Mangaung region in the Free State and the challenges relating to the processes leading up to the Western Cape Provincial Conference. In relation to the Free State Conference, the NEC noted the work undertaken by the task team led by Comrade David Mashwabo and its recommendations to the National Working Committee. To this end, the NEC supports the decision of the IPC that recognized the outcome of Mangaung Conference held at Mvelo Safari Lodge and Little Pluto, and the respective RECs as duly elected. The NEC further directed the PC to take appropriate action against the organizers of a parallel conference held at President Hotel. The NEC further directed the PC to develop and implement political management program or mechanism of bringing all comrades in the affected region into the ANC fold. In relation to the Western Cape Provincial Conference, the NEC made the following decisions. The NEC granted permission for the Interim Provincial Committee to start the process of PGMs and other due processes towards convening the Provincial Conference, endorsed the reports that deals with the auditing of branches in the Western Cape, to deploy a team of NEC members to the province to assist the IPC with the process of preparations of the Provincial Conference. The Provincial Conference to be convened no later than April 2023. The Regional Conference of Dalaoma and Southern Cape will be convened after the Provincial Conference. The NEC ratified ANC 55th National Conference resolutions, which will be released publicly in due course. In considering deployments, the NEC approved deployment of full-time NEC members to support organizational work at the Tuli House. The following members have been deployed full-time to head office: Comrade Spongile Pesani as head of presidency, Comrade Philippe Potreter as head of policy and research, and Comrade Mahlengi Bengu Mutsiri, national spokesperson, Comrade David Makura as head of political education, Comrade Duduzi Manani as head of organizing and membership, Comrade Dumiseni Ntuli as elections head. Furthermore, the NEC approved deployments to its subcommittees and deployment to its members to provinces. These are important mechanisms that will enable effective functioning of the ANC in the execution of its organizational function. Various committees were established. I'll go through them. Deployment Committee is headed by the Deputy President, and then the Secretary General is the coordinator of the Deployment Committee of the ANC. Integrity Commission, to be headed by Reverend Frank Chikani as chairperson, and to be deputized by Comrade Sophie Dupre as deputy. National Disciplinary Committee, Comrade Ralph Nkijima is the chairperson of the Disciplinary Committee. National Disciplinary Committee of Appeal, Comrade Johnny Dilange is the chairperson of this committee. Drafting committee, Comrade Tokoti Diza, deputized by David Makura. Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Comrade Cyril Kawa and Faith Mutani. Information and Publicity and Communications, Nkeni Kekekana, deputized by Mahlengi Pengu. Education, Peggy Nkonyen, as chairperson, and Comrade Mutswale as deputy. Education, Health Science and Technology. Economic Transformation, Mamuluko Kubai, deputized by Zugo Kodlimpi. International Relations, Nomvula Mkonyan, deputized by Obed Mapela. Organizing and Membership, Comrade Diana Pule, chairperson, deputized by Mdu Manana as deputy. Elections and Campaigns, Deputy SG Nomvula, deputized by Barbara, but that will soon change because we discussed that later on to change Comrade Barbara from that position. Political Education, Comrade Besani, deputized by Phoebe. Peace and Stability, Poli Mushielo, deputized by Dixon Masemula. Social Transformation, Zwelini Mkize, deputized by Cindy Chikunga. Archives, Sisito Lashe, deputized by Notawe. Arts and Culture, Tandi Moraka, deputized by Donald Slamulela. Legislature and Governance, Tendin Karine, deputized by Nokolo Kivit. Local Government Intervention, Pakstau, deputized by Stella Darini. Equity and Gender, Nkimutsecha, deputized by Ronald Lamula. Policy Monitoring and Evaluation, DSG Marupeni, deputized by Joe Maswangani. Of course, Finance is the TG. National Dispute Resolution, Dumanana, deputized by Soviet Khanyan. National Dispute Resolutions Committee on Appeal, Comrade Tandini Disi as chairperson. Electoral Committee, Comrade Kharima Mukante, deputized by Comrade Nkele. National Chaplaincy, Reverend Muli Fetele as Chaplain General of the African National Congress, working with Reverend N. Musunkutu and the Reverend V. Mehan as part of the team. This team will be expanded considering also other religious faith, and everybody else should be informed as we go along. The NEC also deployed members to provinces, Eastern Cape, led by Mtswale, Free State, Port Gitter, Gauteng, Pemima Jordina, KwaZulu Natal, Zizikodwa, Limpopo, David Mashobo, Mpumalanga, Nobuhle, Northwest Soviet, Northern Cape, Ronalda, Nolumango, Western Cape, Papa. That is our National Executive Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, SG. At this point, I'd like to then invite any questions from members of the board. Okay, I will start on this left side of my left side. I've got Sankelo over there. I've got Gordon over there, and then I've got my sister in the front. So let's start with yourself, Sankelo, and then move on in that direction, and then we'll then come to the right. Thank you.
Sankelo Maseko from the SAPC. Mr. Marula, the Secretary General of the ANC, just the ANC's response to the resignation of your Premier in the Free State Province, CC Ndobela. What informs the resignation, and what are the processes now going forward to restore the Premier within that province? Secondly, your hometown, this is, I think, the second or the first time I asked you this question. The time frame of eradicating the party system of where you come from. Service delivery is at a snail's pace in the Free State Province. Your national chairperson, Madam Mandashi, said the demarcation of the municipalities in the Free State province has proven that all of those municipalities were designed to be dysfunctional. How are you going to be restructuring and reconfiguring the municipalities through the demarcation board in that municipality? Knowing very well that the chairperson of the demarcation board, Tabuman, contested in the political conference and lost out as the deputy chairperson to the newly elected deputy chair of that province. On the issue of the reconfiguration of municipalities in KwaZulu-Natal, the ANC's viewpoint of what transpired in the number one local municipality yesterday with the IFP and your newly found love with the economic freedom fighters raised that relationship going, and is the ANC having a methodology or a local coalition plan document that you are disseminating in discussing these coalition governments, or are provinces doing as freely and willingly as they want? Then on the issue of the Minister of Electricity, the nation was told by the President that this is an immediate important action, but 10 days has passed, and the number one citizen of the Republic has not taken the nation into confidence on who this Minister of Electricity is on an urgency basis where you are faced with load shedding, yet he said it's an important matter. 10 days later, there's no money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please go on.
Thank you so much. My name is Golden Whittles from Newsroom Africa, channel 405. Mr. Malula, did the deployment committee consult with the President about changes to his executive yet? Did the special NEC endorse negotiations with the EFF at local government? What was the special NEC's view on the delay in executing a cabinet reshuffle? And did it discuss what the impact has been on the government? Has the special NEC discussed the regulations for the state of disaster, for the energy crisis? And was it given any update by the executive on when those regulations would be published? Thank you.
Thank you. All good. I will move over to please.
My name is Tando Maliko from the Business Day. Mr. Malula, could you kindly expand on the decisions taken yesterday to solidify the ANC's conference resolution to move SOEs in line with their respective departments, so ESCOM to electricity, Transnet to transport, in terms of the regulatory requirements and the legislative requirements that would take a long time, I presume, right? So was any time frame given in terms of reconfiguring that process? And then when that happens, was there any discussion on what would happen to the Department of Public Enterprises? Because I understand that the department would fall away, there's no need for it. And then how would the whole process of reconfiguring SOEs to be in line with their respective departments have on the SOE holding company that was spoken of by the President during the State of the Nation address? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will indulge you so that I can get past this side of the room and then proceed to the other side of the room. Problem? Oh, sorry. Okay, once you've spoken, and then I'll go back to and then proceed in that direction.
SABC News. Thank you so much for the opportunity. The NEC special meeting, did it say anything regarding the former president of the ANC, David Mabuza? And this question is informed with the fact that there's quite a lot of confusion on what really is happening with DG Mabuza even. And his brother General announcing that he has resigned, and then there was a plea. We understand that he must hold on and not resign. And then the president during his sonor thanked him for his work for the past 5 years. Yet when he goes out of the country on an international trip, the very David Mabuza is acting as president of the country. Just clarity on what's going on with David Mabuza in the country and the ANC's view or much will see transpiring as far as this confusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I go back to Gordon, then I come back, then come to you, and then I proceed with the
Thank you so much for the opportunity again. Did the special NEC discuss with all the public sector workers pulling out of the 2023 wage negotiations and putting the ANC against its allies in COSATU? Once again, we understand that an engagement was held with the President ahead of the State of the Nation address where there was no resolution on the public sector workers' demands and its relation and how that resolution could be found through the ANC. Lastly, was the announcement of the Minister of Electricity in the State of the Nation address the first time that the ANC had heard of the President's intention to do that? Or was there negotiations beforehand for the setting up of that position? Were you surprised? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then, will be the last question, and I think we can then take this one round question.
It's Tonja from Power FM News. SG, if you recall the last time you mentioned municipalities that the ANC would be focusing on and possibly deploy senior members to those municipalities to address service delivery challenges. Has that did that issue come up at any point, or is there a process that is underway to look at that deployment of senior members to those municipalities? And if there is a process, where is that process, and when are we likely to get some form of briefing or indication on when these deployments will happen? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will then end it on that note for now. I want to just turn to you, SG. The matter of the standing of the Deputy President of the Republic, I think we've explained this over and over again. I'm not certain that the issue should be made to reiterate. We still have the Deputy President who is still in the post, and as long as he is still in the post, he continues to play the role of a Deputy President. I just wanted to dispense with that particular issue, but I want to.
Samkele asked a number of questions. Member Ntombela informed me last night that she intends to resign from her position as Premier of the Free State. I have not received the resignation. I've asked the Provincial Secretary. Coming to this press conference, I tried to check her whereabouts to get to know about this resignation. What we know in the organization is that the Provincial Executive Committee post the conference took a decision to restructure government in the Free State. And that decision is not a unilateral decision by the province. They have to engage with the national officials, which they did, and those matters have now reached conclusion. And the national officials working with the province are processing that matter. So we don't want government to be disrupted. We want a smooth process of transition where such interventions are made. Free State is not the first to be affected by such changes. David Makura was reshuffled by the province, and there was a smooth transition. So we expect that to happen. Even in the Free State, we don't want drama because it's unnecessary. Our people are not interested about positions and all of that. They're interested faster delivery and ensuring that we live up to our talk. Delivering, bringing services, sorting out issues, including the market system in the Free State that you are asking about. That is what it is important for us. So The province is processing that matter, so she informed me that she's going to resign today. So I haven't received the letter, but I'm asked about it at the press conference. So I will still make a follow-up post this press conference to check the letter. But the matter of the Premier of the Free State and so on has been handled by the province and the national officials, and we are implementing a decision of change in the Free State. That's what is going to happen, and we expect the comrades at the level of the province to have engaged with Mema Ntombela so that there is smooth transition in the handover of power in the province. It's not abrupt, it does not disorganize the province, but we are ready for anything. Should anything happen, like abrupt resignation and so on, the ANC will be ready to handle that. There's no crisis. So the people of the Free State and everywhere else must understand there is no crisis. These things of changing positions and people do happen. And we ourselves have satisfied ourselves about those changes, and we concur with the changes that are about to happen, and we are working with the province to process those changes in the province, and that will happen. And we will, at an appropriate time, thank Mantombela for a service to the people of the Free State and for service to the people of this country, and for accepting the deployment of the ANC. And we will thank her appropriately at the right time. So that is what we do as a movement. With regard to the eradication of bucket system, we want that gone. We are now very much clear in terms of local government and service delivery what needs to happen in our country. I suppose the next brief or press conference will be about what are we going to do as the ANC in terms of local government intervention. We have a committee now that is going to be focused on local government, and its immediate task is to deal with the parameter. Look at our deployees. Section 57, people who are deployed, the challenges of coalition, the political challenges we've got in local government, the budgetary revenue problems we've got in local government, and what is it as the ANC we said we're going to do, we need to be doing. We have, of course, based on the reports, identified 42 municipalities. That will be our immediate attention, and we will announce the measures that the ANC in those provinces is going to take to intervene in the municipalities. There's fires everywhere in the country around the local government. The ANC as a leading party in local government have got the responsibility to work towards stability in local government. And this is what our conference has mandated. January 8 talks about that. This year of decisive action, that among others, local government is key to the work that we are going to do. So we intend not to waste any time on this matter. That Pakistan and the team working with the SGO to convene and to engage the provinces together with Phoebe, head of policy and research, to look at this capacity we've got at local government and with our provinces, and we'll announce measures we are going to take in all the provinces in terms of the municipalities across the country. So it will be a bouquet of issues of intervention that we are going to be dealing with. And bucket system, part of service delivery, sewage and all of those things fall within that bucket of service delivery, which is as a result of lack of planning and focused leadership at the local government to dealing with the matters. Demarcation, I don't want to comment on this, but I think the ANC as a legal entity has got the right to make submissions on this matter. So we leave it at that because this is an independent body, so that we don't prejudice whatever decision that could be taken in terms of local government demarcation, that the ANC informed this particular process and will be taken on legally by other people and political parties and so on. So we leave it at that. Coalitions, and we are going to discuss coalitions. David Makura, part of his job now, immediate, is going to be dealing with coalitions to get reports. He's going to be working with 10B on that. He's going to as well be working with the DSG, and then they'll produce a report on coalitions very soon. In the next 2 weeks, I want that report to the NWC on coalitions. A report on the work of coalitions, the perspective the ANC is following. We did share with the public when local government was over the ANC perspective. Now it is time to revisit and say, are we consistent with what we said we will do? You are asking the right question. Provinces are not acting on their own. They've been acting with the mandate of national officials and the National Executive Committee. Now that there is a new NEC, we've got to give direction to the provinces. What is our interest in coalitions? We want stability. Because coalitions have proven that they are quite unstable and they affect service delivery, and we need them to find solutions to this problem as the ANC. We have said when we concluded our campaign at Vista, we will not go into coalitions at all costs. So David Bakura's team will brief us on that. What has happened since then? What is the report? What is happening? What are our options? We will come again, share with you our perspectives, and then also working with our partners in the coalition government. Of course, in some of our provinces have chosen to work with the EFF because EFF did not work with us right from the onset. So it is not all the same in all municipalities. Some municipalities we work together, in some we don't. Obviously, as a political party, it is going to be in our interest to look into that and to decide politically what is in the interest of the ANC. And that's what we're going to do. The ANC and the people of South Africa. That's what we're going to look at. So most definitely, that task is in the works as we speak. Minister of Electricity. This minister is just like any other minister that the president can appoint. It's not a principal issue that it remains there forever. West of this one, the duration, the day he finishes load shedding, the job is finished. Now, we want somebody with expertise and all of that. The president explained it in the State of the Nation, a closing debate, that he's looking at somebody with expertise who will live, sleep, and breathe load shedding. Obviously, if anything has to happen, it doesn't mean if the minister is not there, the work in relation to addressing load shedding exists. We've got NECOM, Electricity Crisis Committee, that is meeting regularly. We've got the state of disaster. We have not yet received any regulations from NECOM and the state of disaster as to what are the new regulations in relation to that. So government will lead. Regulations are about how do you deal with the challenges to deal with the crisis. Then you develop regulations based on that. If the issue in the main is about the red tape, and that there is an impediment in relation to the laws of the country to get us to move expeditiously to deal with load shedding, there will be regulations in the context of the state of disaster that will enable us to move with speed to address e.g. red tape and many other challenges. So NECOM and the different ministries have been requested in government to look at in relation to transport, for instance, what are the issues that we think are important for regulations in relation to state of disaster when it comes to the provision of electricity and addressing load shedding in the country. So it's in the works. And that work, I think, as it happens, different ministers will explain these regulations that will be implemented going forward. So, the Minister of Electricity is just an intervention. It's not even related to the total configuration of government plans. It's an intervention to address a crisis. And that's what the President want to do, and the ANC now have endorsed that particular decision. Of course, there were a lot of misgivings, both in the ANC and outside. In the ANC, what we know is that people questioned the electricity issue, Minister, in relation to the conference decisions. Of course, comrades have got the right to raise their views. We have since clarified that this is in no way a departure from the conference resolution on the question of reconfiguration of government. So we are clear in relation to that, about reconfiguration, that the electricity minister does not affect that reconfiguration. And that is what we are doing. Deployment, no, deployment was just approved yesterday. So, deployment committee, government. So there is no consultation with and if the president has to reconfigure government, he does not deal with deployment committee, he deals with the ANC officials. He doesn't deal with the deployment committee. He will come to the deployment, to the officials and say that on such and such a day, I'm redeploying some care to this, and therefore these are the reasons I am doing so. As the person empowered by the constitution of this country to hire and fire. But the ANC then politically has to be consulted. That includes the tripartite alliance, which means Conservative Communist Party will also be involved. So that process will kick in as and when the president is going to implement reshuffle, if he has to do it. That process will kick in. There is no delay. We have been, in terms of reshuffle or anything, we have been dealing with one in January 8. We have produced January 8. We have finalized our resolutions, and we have reconfigured ourselves in terms of the NEC. We have finalized the resolutions of conference. They are ready to be printed. Now we are developing the program of action. That's what we are doing. And then from there, in government, we have the state of the nation, we have the budget, and then from there, all of these issues, obviously, we've got to have answers and they be closed. We can't have a situation where the leading government and the ruling party is hanging on something that never comes to a conclusion. At some point, I've said to you when I gave you, I want to repeat again, Sam Kelly asked and you asked Kevin and many others. I said, all of these things we are envisaging they should happen and wrapped up within the month of February. I've said that. So Nina, you want the date of reshuffle, I can see. We want to know when is it going to happen. I've said all of this, President is applying his mind on a whole lot of issues. Within the month of February, all of these issues, we shouldn't be talking about them going forward. So the budget is passing tomorrow, and then we embark on the final phase. And then we go to the new month of March. So by then, as the party, as the ANC, we will want all of those issues to be concluded, obviously by the president. We don't want the country to be hanging on. There are very important issues we've got to implement this year. And our role as the movement is to ensure that electricity is resolved, our employees do what they can to ensure service delivery, conference resolutions are implemented, our structures gear themselves up for renewal projects in the party. We've got to look on all those issues, and government must work. it can't be held at random that there's still going to be some big reshuffle and it's not happening. So we envisage that by February, all of this will be wrapped up and be done and dusted. I briefed our caucus in Parliament, including about the matter of the Deputy President, that the Deputy President is now in Parliament and then we're expecting to be considered for deployment in the higher office of the land after consultation with the President. So I briefed our caucus because you've been asking me questions because people tell you things leaking. And then David Mabuza, that issue has been resolved. The President has explained that the Deputy President has asked to step down. In this instance, the President asked, let's do the transitional thing because there's a whole lot of things when a person steps down, you consider for replacement. And in this instance, our people and our structures have the expectation that Paul Mashatile will fill that vacancy. But that prerogative remains the prerogative of the President. If the President were to come tomorrow and say something different, he will explain to the ANC why something different, not this way. There is no ulterior motive to undermine anybody, including the Deputy President of the ANC. Neither does our processes say when your Deputy President will be Deputy President of the country. But in terms of decorum and collegiality and stability in the organization, we have not had something different over the years. So your expectation that Mashatile will occupy that position are not far-fetched, unless if there is something new, like it happened with Pumzile, when President Zuma was facing challenges, he stepped down and he was replaced in cabinet by Me Pumzile Mlambo. But as a Deputy President, he served his time and he was only released, and he also resigned after he was facing the charges that he's facing today in terms of the corruption trial. So that's what has actually happened. Even after that, President Zuma went to appoint his deputy to become the deputy in government, and then it has now become, it's not a tradition, it's just a practice. Yeah, in the organization, convention, an unwritten law. It's a convention, so to say, correctly. So it's an unwritten law that the Deputy President. So there is no issue, and there's not been any instability and challenge with regard to that. President thanked Comrade Didi, and we ourselves, when that moment of his resignation comes, we will deal with that issue because we owe it to him to thank him for his service to the movement, to the ANC, to the people of this country. And for as much as I can recall, since he has been Deputy President, we never had many issues around him. And you guys have chased him, you wanted him to act like a drama queen and so on. He stayed focused on the task up until the end. So there is nothing we can take from that comrade and actually pin on him as a comrade who has not been loyal to the movement in service of our people. He worked with the President, stabilized government, and they ran government properly together. And he understood his role as a Deputy President and tried to the best of his ability to execute his mandate as given the task by the President. And we are grateful to him because that story must be told, and he must be thanked for that. And he led our organization, not our organization, his position in government in a very dignified way from where we stand. I've addressed the regulations for state of disaster. Time frame for reconfiguration, I've explained. Reconfiguration, Tando, you're correct, it's taking a lot of time. So now that we're working on it, government will work on it in terms of reconfiguring, relocating departments, alignment in government. So it takes time. It's not like we take a resolution yesterday that ESCOM must go and it will happen like tomorrow. That will take time, but it will happen, it must happen. If it doesn't happen, we'll have to account to the membership of the ANC and the ANC why that resolution was not implemented. So the President or ourselves have got no right to change that resolution. So government must be reconfigured, and that's going to happen. Even the reconfiguration that conference did not consider to the detail, to look at to the alignment in government of some of the entities, misalignment, learning from experience what we need to do. That will answer also the issue of the ministry. You don't just dissolve a ministry abruptly and then say that the public enterprise from this afternoon has closed down. Obviously, if some of the entities are taken to the line ministries, then we've got to look at public enterprise. And what is then the future of the SOEs? How are we going to coordinate them? So it's a detailed issue, but the principle is there that we must reconfigure in terms of our conference resolution. So that is going to happen. We obviously have got to do things without destabilizing government. We are 9 months or 12 months before we get into the next election. So the focus is on delivery. The focus is on implementation, conference. The focus is on addressing the needs of the people, as this month, this year, has been characterized by the ANC. I've answered David Mabuza. Please don't ask me about it again. I think it's the umpteenth time I've been answering. President answered in Parliament, I've answered. There is no crisis. No crisis at all. So you can read between the lines what's going to happen. We wouldn't send the Deputy President to Parliament to go and warm backbenchers. Otherwise, I would have taken him back with Makura here. So you must read between the lines and stop asking one and the same question. Obviously, other people want us to be in the mud and then debate the things that we don't need to debate. There is a crisis, folks, is being sabotaged by the President. President Ramaphosa, if you know him, he doesn't work like that. He doesn't even like reshuffling. It's like Tabuleki. You know, reshuffling people and all of that. He doesn't like that. You know, President Mbeki was efficient and the best when it comes to government, but he never had enormous challenges like load shedding, challenges like COVID-19 and all of that, but he was the best in terms of governance, in government. But there's one thing he did not believe in, reshuffling. And you media, you always attacked it, including calling Sismanto by names. Nina Benina Gaza, Ningama 2000. Your predecessors, veterans, they used to say that, bad route, this man must go. And Sismanto passed on, may soul rest in peace. And the president did not shake on that, just move and all of that. But yet, he delivered in terms of his cabinet and ministers. So, there are a number of things you consider. I don't know, when you run government, when you have to reshuffle. It's not an easy decision because you sit there, you see what you want to achieve and all of that. And then when you arrive at that decision, other people believe that I must serve with my cabinet for 5 years. And then I'm done with. I can't reshuffle cabinet every weekend, you know. That says something about how other comrades think in government. So at least our experience now is Mandela, is Thabo Mbeki, is Jacob Zuma, and Cyril Ramaphosa. So you will see that the president is not a fanatic of doing things just for the sake of doing it and for populist stance. He applies his mind. At least having come across him in government and working with him, he doesn't take quick decisions he applies his mind, and when he takes decisions, you can be confident to defend those decisions. Public sector workers, we want that strike to be resolved. We want matters related to workers, public sector negotiations to resume. We ourselves as the ANC, we will play our part with our allies in government and our deployees. It is in our interest and the interest of this country to resolve all issues that have been raised by the workers and government to find each other on these matters. We will pronounce ourselves as the time goes on, but we don't want this to boomerang out of control. Obviously, we want these matters to be resolved expeditiously. Was it the first time we hear about electricity during the State of the Nation address? No, it was not the first time. It was only the public that heard about it for the first time. Even as we were getting into the State of the Nation address, we were briefed about it. On matters like this, the network of consultation is not wide. You don't go to Makura, Mahlengi, a decision is taken there that we want this and it will happen. And the president directs government. He knows what he wants. We may criticize him sometimes about some of the decisions he takes, but he sits down and make an evaluation and take decisions that inform what will assist him to work faster in terms of delivery. He knows where he's seated. That sometimes probably people are not telling me the truth about electricity and all of that. So I need somebody dedicated on that job so that I can be hands-on in terms of dealing with it. So there's not going to be deputy minister and all of that. Just this person to deal with load shedding. That's what is important. Municipalities, power FM, deployment of senior members, this will be considered as part of our plan going forward with regard to what we want to do in local government. I've said to you, we are still going to come back to you and tell you what we are already doing and what we are going to do in the municipalities to assist Cochrane, to assist in Nkosazana and government. Because the problems in that local government are political. There are problems of budgets that we need to consider in that local government. There are problems of mismanagement, deliberate mismanagement by officials and politicians alike that bring local government into disrepute. We then have got to look at good examples in the country where there is stability. Why there is stability there? Both from the side of where we govern as the ANC, including our opponents. What brings stability at local government? And then learn from those examples, and then begin to say from our side, what is it that we need to do? Because we are the leading party when it comes to local government governance. Nobody can take that away from us. We are the leading party. Although some of the municipalities now, post this election, are in harm municipalities, that has deepened our problem a little bit. Because you wake up today with a different mayor. Next week there is a different mayor. These mayors are just changing in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and so on. We can't be happy about that because that affects the service delivery. So this team of Pakistan, in terms of the ANC, working with the SGO and Makura coalitions and so on, we are going then to say, here is the bouquet of things we need to do. Even if it means we must call a special NEC meeting for that work, we're going to do that. Because we are not going to delay implementation and service delivery any longer. So when we move here, there will be decisions that will be announced and you'll see coming up. We will not be held at ransom by deployments. Who must go where and all of that, premier there. That can't be the issue for South Africa. South Africa is not interested who becomes the next minister. They want to know, you bring this one or that one is fine. How far are you going to go to resolve our issues with speed? And that is what is important, and the ANC is conscious of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Stu. Shall I then turn to this side of the room? And starting at the top to the bottom. Is my brother over there?
My name is Norman Masobe from City Press. The first question is with the appointment, or now that the various committees have been appointed, is there a time frame set for them to conclude or finish the work that was left by the previous committees and those that were deferred to the new NEC? I'm asking this because there are issues of what we saw in Parliament last year, where 4 cabinet ministers were said to have gone against the party's wish to vote against the Parapara issue. So, and there's also an element of another issue where there are names that were implicated in the Zondo Commission report. Where the committee, it was also said that the report was going to be handed to the new committee to see what to do with it, depending on the nature and how the individuals were implicated in this issue. My second question is on the issue of the leads. The special NEC, because now the SG has touched on the Western Cape, what is the progress of why the Western Cape is not, hasn't had its provincial conference. And we know that it's not Western Cape alone, the league also is still not, they have not convened their conference, they are still running on the interim structure. What is the status? Is there a time frame that they need to go to their meeting? Because the SG to call him in one of the conference, I think it was during the national conference, he mentioned that by end of April, all the leagues should must have gone to conference so that we can focus on something else. Has that issue been discussed, and what is the time frame to deal with the league going to conference? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on then to the next person. Over there. Thank you.
My name is Eric from the Citizen newspaper. My first question is around the question of matters that were not necessarily addressed before the national conference. The issue of branches that would not hold their conferences, their branch general meetings, because in preparation for the national conference, because of intimidation, because of people that were disrupting their meetings, some people were killed in places like Bumalanga, no less than 3 or 4 people were killed there. How far is the ANC in preparing or in doing something on that to address that issue? Secondly, is the question of immigration policy. The ANC as far as I know had no immigration policy framework, and the Minister of Home Affairs had made a representation to the policy conference about that matter and submitted a document. And has the national conference adopted that and came up with a policy framework around immigration, considering the fact that immigration is kind of a crisis now. There are people that are brought from outside overnight to say they must be accepted in South Africa overnight.
Thank you very much. I am ending for closure if there are no extra hands. Okay, Marianne, I think you haven't asked the question, so let me prioritize and then I'll go back to something.
Thank you so much, Kotato Madisa at Sunday Times. Perhaps this could go to the other NEC members as well. I just want to confirm the Is the ANC now moving the head of policy to the second DSG? Can you just please confirm that? Because previously it was the Jeff who was not in the top 6. So I just want to confirm if you've now moved it to the national officials department. Oh, yeah. And then in terms of the reconfigured alliance, according to the NWC report, you met at the Secretariat on the 15th of February, and some of the things that you discussed there was the reconfigured alliance. COSATU has made their views public around what they want as a reconfigured alliance, and that includes looking at the powers of the president to unilaterally have the power to reshuffle, that the monitoring and evaluation should not be in the presidency, for instance, it should sit with the alliance. What is the ANC's view on what this reconfigured alliance looks like? Do you agree with what COSATU is saying, or do you have a different view? And then perhaps lastly, in your NWC report, you mentioned Rule 12.14, which speaks about people who are elected in the NEC and have to resign from lower structures. In terms of the Youth League, do you consider it a lower structure, or the likes of Nongeba and Joy have to leave that structure? Can they still stand as candidates to lead the organization and the structure? So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sandra and then
Thank you very much. My question is directed to the new head of political education, Mr. David Makura. In the diagnostic report of the Secretary General in 2017, he spoke about the intellectual and the ideological bankruptcy of ANC membership, ANC leaders at the regional, provincial, and ultimately the national level. What is the immediate task of reigniting political education within the ANC, particularly knowing during your tenure as the PS of Gauteng was perceived as the most intellectually and ideologically sound province, which has now become far cry as to what it was in this area. And also, to Mr. Introducer Manana, the issue of organizing caused a stir in the run-up to the 2022 conference, where there were allegations against the then head of organizing, who was a full-time at the House and ultimately now the DSG, particularly pertaining to the sealed votes which you were employee in those regional and provincial conferences. How are you going to avoid a situation where you are perceived as being entangled in the divisions of these conferences that are yet to take place going into the future as the head of organizing? Thank you.
thank you very much. Sandra, Tandra.
Okay, SG, you said that you would like things of reconfiguration in terms of cabinet reshuffle and other programs to be wrapped up by the end of February. Does this mean within the coming days you will also hand in your resignation as the Minister of Transport? And then to Mr. Makura, would your appointment as head of political education not duplicate the work of the Oratambo School, or would you be working together? How would that work?
Thank you so much. It's Governor again from Newsroom Africa. Now that you've appointed Reverend Frank Chikane as the head of the Integrity Commission, what happens to the Pala Pala report and the Digital Vibes report? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes that's the final round of questions. Thank you very much. I want, before bringing in the SG, with your permission, SG, to invite Comrade Manana to just quickly reflect, not to respond, you don't have to respond, but to quickly reflect on the question by Sandero, and then I'll move on to Comrade David to do the same.